Hello everyone, welcome back. Iowa has some really cool residents, so it's hard to pick which one I'd like to talk about. But after careful consideration, I decided to talk about frogs. So, throughout this video, we will look at what makes a frog a frog. What is the life cycle of the frog? 5 different species of frogs in Iowa? What do they look like? What do they sound like? And 5 fast facts. So stay tuned to learn more. I figured this was a great time to go over the life cycle of frogs. That way you can get a good grasp on what it's like to be a frog. Of course, we all have to start somewhere, so let's start with the egg. We all have to start somewhere, so let's start with the egg. Frog eggs are laid in the water. They look just like balls of clear jelly with a black dot in the middle. And around 1 to 3 weeks, the eggs will hatch and the next stage will begin. After being an egg for a few weeks, it's time to hatch and become a tadpole. Tadpoles look pretty silly. They're very small, and maybe you can confuse them with an insect or a small fish. They have no legs at this stage and use gills to breathe underwater. Their diet consists of aquatic plants, and they grow in this stage for several weeks. I was unable to find a picture of this stage, but this is the froglet stage. And at this point, they are growing legs. And the only legs that are growing are the front legs, so they look pretty silly. And they also begin to develop lungs so they can breathe out of water. It sort of looks like a large tadpole with legs in the front. Here is what a young frog looks like. A young frog looks like an adult frog with really long tails. The frog now has front legs and hind legs. The cool thing about the tail in this frog is that at this stage the frog does not need to eat because that tail will shorten and it has nutrients, so as it shortens it feeds the frog. Pretty cool, right? This is our very last stage, the adult. As we know, the adult frog doesn't have a tail and has all 4 legs. At this point, the main duty of the adult is to mate and lay eggs. With that being said, that is all I have for you for the life cycle. Hopefully you learned something new about the life cycle of frogs. Let's look at 5 of Iowa's most common frog species. Next time you're out near a lake or a pond, maybe you can identify some of these species. Our first frog is the northern leopard frog. How pretty is this one? Has a nice bright green color with black spots in the back and then stripes going down the back. Let's listen to what they sound like. It kind of sounds like the same thing we can do with our mouths. The ah. Kind of fun, right? This is a chorus frog, one of Iowa's smallest species. They kind of have these stripes on their back. You can see it a little bit. They're not very distinct sometimes, but when you see the full back of the frog, you would be able to better recognize the stripes that I'm talking about. Let's take a look at what they sound like. They kind of sound like if you were to knock some marbles up against each other. Here's another one of Iowa's smallest species, This is a cricket frog. That is super small and it is about the same size as the chorus frog. It can also be really confused with the chorus frog because of its size, and it may be hard to see what the color and the markings on the cricket frog. This cricket frog, instead of stripes, has little blotches. That's the biggest difference in how I can recognize this frog. So let's go ahead and take a look at what it sounds like. It almost sounds like a dog training clicker. If you've ever heard of one of those, they're really loud clicks. It's almost like that. This is a spring peeper. They're very pretty frogs. I have personally not seen one yet, but I would love to. Their call kind of sounds like maybe a little baby doing a small cry. It's a pretty funny call, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. That's a pretty funny call, right? These frogs are also quite small, but not quite as small as our cricket or chorus frogs. Now let's talk about the difference between frogs and toads. Frogs like to hop, whereas we see toads crawl a little bit more. Frogs have longer legs than toads. Toads are dry and warty. They're typically on land, and you can find them on land in woody areas. Whereas frogs you would find in the water. They would be very close to the water at least. You wouldn't see them stray away from water very much at all. And their skin is very wet and slimy. Alrighty, it's that time of the video. It's our 5 fast facts about frogs. Let's get into it. There are over 5,000 species of frogs. Some frog calls can be heard from a mile away. Wow. Females can lay up to 4,000 eggs at a time. Frogs don't drink water, they absorb it through their skin. The largest frog is in Africa, and it weighs up to 7 pounds. And the smallest frog is 1/2 inch long. Whoa, that's really small. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you learned something new about frogs, whether that's what they sound like, what they look like, their life cycle, the difference between frogs and toads, and more. So, thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next one.